So thrilled to be joined by today's guest, the first guest we ever had on the walk-off, our guest with now the most appearances. This is his fourth. A guy who has listened to us right from day one. And being that this is episode 68, Jaromir Jagr's number, I figured it was appropriate and a must to have him back. The driving force behind the Travelling Jagrs, Trevor Freeman. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Good to see you, boys.
How do you like that intro, eh?
That's a pretty great intro. I don't know if I've listened to everything. I've heard everything.
The Toronto Blue Jays, buddy.
Oh,
All of a sudden, this team is legit. Is that fair to say? Am I fair to say they are legit?
It's not just legit. Like I was prepping this side of it for today to talk to you guys because we haven't talked in a while, and honestly, like the excitement that they've got going. The one thing that I've been laughing about is the home run jacket, because the home run jacket only exists if you're winning the way they're winning right now. You know what I mean? Like, so it is fun to see that energy and that participation. But in the same token, it's part and parcel with what we're talking about. Like the social media team of the Jays is doing a really good job right now of connecting to fans the way that we connected to fans, I guess, right? Like it has really allowed for, like, obviously that social media person's right on the bench, right? Like, and they're capturing like at bats and just those moments. I don't know if you guys saw Manoah last night after the game. He was just like, Toronto, you brought the heat, right? Like, keep going. But that's what that team's feeding off of now, is that excitement of being home. And I mean, we've been home for a week, right?
They're
like
7-1. They're 7-1.
Well, and they're keeping pace with the Yankees, which they needed to do, right? All those teams that made big deadline deals, where Toronto made small deadline deals. We're still on a wait and see about the one, of course, with our mortgaged future for our current. But like they're winning, and what are we gonna argue with the energy that brings to the country, which is that's the unique part about the Blue Jays, of course, too, right? That baseball people in the know they'll notice that, right? Like I'm waiting for my group chats to get a little bit more Blue Jay oriented and focused, because that's going to be the thing that comes next, really, right? Is that people are really going to watch these games, because the way they're
gaining steam is fast too, man. Like coming out of that trade deadline, like such a big acquisition in Jose Barrios. The fact, like you said, they mortgaged the future a little bit, but this team is better because of what they.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, and not just that. Like did you guys see the nightclub thing?
Yeah. Turn the clubhouse into like a dance bar.
Story, right? Like,
that's just so. Like I just told you a whole story about the confluence of all these events that make for one thing that just works, and that's what it is right now, right? Like they're just having a good time. They're having fun playing good baseball. They're understanding the gravity of needing to win the moment. So maybe last year's shortened season helped that, in some ways, because they didn't have to carry that over 182 games last year. They knew they had a short period. And one of the things I've always said about like men's baseball is we do better with tournaments because it teaches you to win on a condensed schedule, right? And it teaches you to come together and have those moments where you're drinking with your friends or like whatever it may be. And then everybody sort of gets on the same page and it lines up. And that when that works with your talent, forget about it, right? Like you get the Travelling Jagrs out of something like that. Make no mistake, we had the talent for gabbing and interacting with people and all that, and that's what helped us be successful. Well, with the Jays, they've got all this like baseball talent, but it's coming together to inform them how to win. So even if they don't win this year, they know how to win, and they know how much fun and how much energy and how much, excitement that brings.
And you can tell how infectious this fun atmosphere is. Like like Marcus Semien is a pretty straight dude, right? Like he's a all business kind of guy.
I'll only be here for 1 year guy. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and like we've talked in our group chats, like maybe they do re-sign him now, because why would you look to a piece outside that has to fit into this when you've got the piece who is a big part of this, right? So like maybe that changes the way that signing even looks in the future. And honestly, if you were to ask me today if I had to sign him today, Sign him to big dollars today, and let's see where we end up, because this team's just a lot of fun to watch anyway, right? Like, that's the coolest part, is that baseball is fun again, and you know, in the midst of everything that's going on with the Olympics, you know, our women's soccer gold is amazing. Historical, but we can't not talk about the Jays in the same breath as like an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, you're right, man.
On a Thursday night win, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing stuff in that stadium right now that, and I'll argue that part of that is the excitement of coming home and playing in front of your home fans for the first time in 2 years. But they're understanding that the gravity of riding that wave can affect what the outcome of this season is, and they're not looking back right now.
George Springer doubters are sure eating their words, eh?
Literally, I had a conversation with baseball guys about this yesterday while we were hitting at the cage. Now, side story of hitting on the cage, I almost busted my nose. I'm surprised you don't have two black eyes to look at. And I've been playing baseball for 40 years, literally. And I fouled one off the plate yesterday and smashed myself in the face, a la Scherzer, Burnett. And I was just like, I looked at my guys and my eyes are watering, my nose is bleeding. And I was just like, I haven't seen that in baseball. So that's a fun side story. But literally, that's talk around the cage, is just, you know, it's Springer. Hey, remember all those people that thought Springer, what did we do? We wasted the money. He was injured. Well, this is why they waited, right? Like, they got the talent level in the farm and on the big club right now is outrageous. Like, it's outrageous. You haven't even touched the Groshans or any of the, you know what I mean? Like, you've got some exciting young talent. And I think that's why the Austin Martin thing does sort of hurt, was just, to me, he's the piece that hurt, because I was excited that Vanderbilt is churning out these big league stars, not just talent, stars, right? So it was a woulda, coulda, shoulda with that situation, and we've watched guys like Syndergaard go and like become Thor and those sort of things.
Adam and I have talked about this a little bit, just how, and if you look at that trade, Simeon Woods Richardson, his ceiling, right? So if he turns out exactly how you cross your fingers and hope he turns out, he's Jose Barrios.
Right.
So then they basically paid Austin Martin to get
at the time,
to get him right now, rather than need to wait 3 years.
Well, and I think
it is a hefty price. It truly is, but maybe it's worth it.
So here's the side that I'll also interject, is the Latin energy in the room makes a guy like him coming to the team work even better. So I think you have a good opportunity to re-sign him, because there are other Latin players that are very, not just prevalent, but they're contributing, like, active members, and there is a good interaction. And honestly,
I love this point, dude.
In baseball, there has to be, like, I don't know why it's not talked about more often. If you look at winning teams, look at the Jays that won the World Series. The 92-93 teams had a Latin influence that is undeniable, you know, in your Alomars and your secondary players, right? How am I blanking? Manny
Lee.
Yes. Manny Lee is a secondary player, right? Like, and he was instrumental in winning that season, right? Like, and so even last night, that's what I was looking at, was like the contribution of a guy like Kelly Gruber, let's say. Kelly Gruber was a good baseball player. He was an above average baseball player. But he wasn't like a superstar. No. Like, was he an all-star? He had to have been an all-star for a couple years, but like,
he was an all-star back in, I think it was 89, 90.
So he wasn't a perennial though necessarily. He was just solid. And honestly, the composition of that, where you're getting, I look at Grishik right now as our Kelly Gruber.
Sure, that's a great example.
Right? Like, he's a producer, 100%. I watched him hit that double last night at that moment in time. Remember at the beginning of the season, we were talking about, like, well, where does he fit in? Is he the odd man out? You know, and you made the call, you know, 40 bombs, like, he might really step up, and he has. But that's, again, my same example of, like, the guy who feeds off of the energy of the team, right? So he fits in with the Latin ball players. He fits in with everybody, and that's 100%. What I like.
100%. And I want to build on this a little bit because you're bringing up such a really good point here, Trev. And it kind of stood out to me when they were all mic'd up, and they're out on the field, and it just kind of hit me. It's like these guys speak baseball. Like, forget about the language barrier. Like, you see Hyunjin Ryu out there joking around with Manoah, who's joking around with Kirk, and they're all, like, you can hear them. They're literally, like, it really blew me away to hear Bo Bichette speaking broken Spanish back and forth between these guys, and they're all speaking half English, half Spanish, half, like, they're very opening, and they're just like, we're a team, and we speak baseball. Forget about the language.
English, it's everything. Yeah. Well, but that's the coolest part. So I'll circle back to the home run jacket. And the reason I like the home run jacket is the home run jacket represents all the countries that compose Canada, plus the team, plus, like this energy that we're feeling. So, realistically, like, I would like to see this team on the field together again next year, no matter what happens, right? Like, and that's a really cool place for us to be in as Blue Jays fans in that way, is that, realistically, this is a team that can win. They can win together. Man, that Red Sox, they beat the Red Sox last night. Let's not mistake. And if you understand the ebb and flow of a baseball season, they are starting the engines up on a run in the stretch now, right when they need to, right? This is the kind of thing where you can get hot now. I don't think that their energy will wane because what no other team in the big leagues has right now is A, country behind them, and B, like, fans that haven't seen them in 2 years. So it's not gonna, it was weird because about 3 days ago, I was looking and they were selling tickets. Like, they were still like, hey, it's okay, come to the games. If they keep doing this, you're going to have to turn people away. Like, they're, you know what I mean? Like, that's.
Well, I listened to Manoah on that press conference yesterday after the game, and he literally, you could just tell his excitement was palpable, and he was so pumped, and he was just like, I can't even imagine this place with 50,000 people. He's like, this is a madhouse, and we've got 15,000, and he's like, I can't even imagine tripling this. Like,
listen, and it is the most uncomfortable stadium I've ever been to. So like, to have that level of excitement in that type of environment,
in a cement bunker, for sure.
It's still like, and it's still a cool, kitschy kind of place. Like, I think we're ready for a new one, but that's not going to be the thing that is a detriment to this team right now. It is the understanding and the catching the energy of, a Toronto fan base that they're coming off a recent NBA championship even, right? So they also know how to win and how to party in the win and all that kind of stuff. So like, that could make things really interesting if they just get into the wild card spot, right? Like,
what I really liked about yesterday's win against the Red Sox was it all started with the bottom of the order. Right. 3 straight doubles. And that's one thing that this team, I mean, we keep talking about talent and how stacked this team is. I think, honestly, right now, we probably have a top 10 rotation in the league. Probably a top 10 bullpen. Easily top 3 batting order, if not maybe the best batting order, right? You could argue we have the best hitters in baseball.
I sent you those stats the other day. I think we were second.
Yeah, and like, we are, I think, top 3 right now in run differential across the entire MLB. So the only thing that we're missing out on is, instead of winning 16-1, we need to start winning those 5-4 games.
Right. Well, the 1-run games that are, and those are tantamount. Those are team games too, which is a nice, like, that's sort of a nice thing, right? Is that I got to 5 extra minutes, but it's the nice thing right now, and that's what I'm talking about with the Grishik double. Like, that's what stood out to me there, and the equivalence to Kelly Gruber. Gruber was that guy. Man, he'd hit a bomb or a triple in the right moment.
Yeah.
And like you'd look back at the line and he'd be 1 for 4, but the right one. And honestly, like as a baseball player, here's the argument is the right one can get you in the Hall of Fame at 3 at bats. And if you're a bottom of the order guy, right, you're not going to be there for long if you contribute that way night in and night out. So, you know, having an understanding of what it means in that moment, that's what resonated with me. Was Grishik knew he needed to get a hit, and a double was even better. You know what I mean? Like it was just they just you stack on wins in that way in terms of wins in the game.
And we're all talking about it here, but this bottom of the order, I mean, the fact that Gurriel is hitting 7th and you get to watch him
happily,
like, it's crazy. It is.
Well,
it is.
And what strikes me about that too is that he's not pouting and hitting 7th. Because I can tell you this: in men's league, my guy put me 7th 2 weeks ago, and I'm fine with it now because I was like, "Fuck you!" Like I'm a mid-order guy. So then all of a sudden, like, man, I hit 2 doubles, 2 bombs, you know, like just stuff like that after that because it was like you forgot who I was, but. You know what I'm saying? Like he is perfectly. When you also look ahead of you and you see that big picture, he's having such a good time. He didn't get traded, right? Like because his name was in those trade talks and everything. So like that affects anybody.
I think that's a huge thing. I think you're bringing up something that's massive with this team dynamic right now, which is that this team did not lose members. Right?
Yes.
Like, they traded Martin and they traded Woods Richardson, but these are guys that weren't on the squad.
No. And let's face it, Gurriel earned that spot, right? Like he really did. He turned his defense around. He brought his hitting. He is a 7-hole hitter. He really is. Like, you know, he can have flashes of middle of the order.
Right.
But he's a 7-hole hitter who in the future I'd see him slotting in into maybe he could be a 2-hole hitter. He could be, you know what I mean? He's got speed and he can handle the bat. Like, you know, if he had any aspirations, if he had aspirations, he could get there. Right. To me, that's the excitement of this team is that there's places where guys could work on things to be better. And the environment is conducive to guys wanting to do that, to be bigger contributors, right? So a guy like Gurriel who's satisfied in the 7-hole, but he could be a 2-hole hitter. That's what, if I was coaching him, that'd be the thing I'd be telling him every day. Hey man, show me. I want to put you there. And that healthy competitiveness between all these guys will yield a result that is because of the connection. They understand one guy is not going to slight another guy. Because I'm saying he's a 2-hole guy. Vladdy's hitting 2-hole right now. I was looking at the composition of our lineup, and honestly, you hit a guy like Vladdy 2-hole because the pitchers have to worry about him earlier. I think this is the only time ever I'm like, our managing is actually on point right now. You know, like where I'm like, I can see what you're doing, and I think 2022 is really going to show everyone exactly what you're talking about, because this batting order could be completely different. It could be a totally different group of guys. We could literally see Gurriel and Bichette hitting 2-3, and you know, a guy like Vladdy hitting 5th, maybe, depending on how hot who is lighting the world on fire at that time. Well, and that's where I'm seeing, like, I want to give Charlie the
benefit of the doubt.
You're doing it, but we also know how involved the front office is, and maybe we're now starting to see the sort of like, hey, we're planning to get to this place sort of idea,
the
right?
blueprint is coming together. It's being built, exactly.
And that's where I'll say that's the only question mark to me is like, how is this the real Montoya when he gets the chance to manipulate his lineup a little bit, to go with who's hot and whatever it may be, right? Because that's the guy I want to talk to. this guy that's sort of played along. Oh, I don't. You know what I mean? Like a friend, Scott, the guy I was trying to connect you guys with, it was the strength and conditioning coach of the softball girls, right? Like we were talking about that, and I think what Canadian coaching misses sometimes is understanding the moments, right, that you hit the gas, and other times where you sort of idle. And like right now, that's what I see out of moving a guy like Vlad up to the 2-hole when he's just, man, he could win the Triple Crown if Otani like breaks a nail or gets a blister. You know what I mean? Like he could just step up into that Triple Crown. He's having an that play he made last night told me everything I needed to see out of Vladdy, you know, and I'm the guy who was like, if he doesn't produce, send him down. I'll own that. I said that earlier before the season started, right? And he's not only done that, he's decided, man, I could be an all-star first baseman.
Yeah.
Right? And he was.
His
and then
defense has been incredible. You're right, man.
You know, so he ranges on his backhand and makes a perfect running throw back across his body.
It was crazy.
And hits the pitcher on the run.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it
right?
was wild.
That's a Joey Votto level first base play.
It was.
And he's done that in a year and a half, right? So, like, and that Bo play
even less because they just moved him to first base mid-season last year. Like it is,
but that Bo play across his body too, like running into center field and then throwing back across your body like that. Like anytime Adam and I always laughed about arm strength and whatever else. All right. I see you, Bo. Like, and not only that, I see that long hair sliding headfirst into the home plate and smiling and having a good time. Like, this team has an energy that is going to be hard to match up against for anybody. Agreed. So, you know, it's coming. Like, I'm really looking forward to September because that's when it is like, you know, now the screws get tightened. I want to see how they do under the pressure because, you know what, it's first week of August wins, right? Like you're on a roll, but you have to maintain that now. Like you have.
It's a dogfight the rest of the way. It's going to be fun to watch, man. That's 60, for sure.
60 games left, right? Almost 60 games left. So,
well, essentially, like playoffs are starting right now. Like every game matters. This is playoff baseball, right?
It's
so
fun. It's so fun.
and just look at these. Like when you look at what the Yankees did, plus the Dodgers did, plus the, you know, like I mean, we were talking about the wood chipper that was the Dodgers earlier in the season. Well, they just improved and they battened down. But same with the Padres, though. The Padres smelled blood in the water, so they went for it at the trade deadline and made some real improvements, right? Like we have to play our best baseball to be competitive against those teams. But last night's game and last night's win showed me
very encouraging.
We've got that. We've got that gear still, right?
Absolutely. So, Trev, we'll leave it at that. I know that you've got to get out of here. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries, man. It was fun.
Can't wait to have you back, brother.
Of course. Thanks, boys.
Take care.